was DEI made for?
Oh, who's it made for?
Minorities. Right? Let's go there.
I'm gonna go off the thing. I'm gonna say it was made for Jewish people during the potato famine.
Okay. Y'all want the answer?
Go ahead.
White women have benefited the most from DEI programs, while women remain.
Welcome back to Chocolate Espresso Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas New Air. Whatever float your fancy, I ain't that picky, y'all. This is our third episode about a new president.
We still on this,
y'all. We didn't even get to the whole core of it. We out here trying to talk about...
Comply with command.
Yeah. We out here trying to talk about DEIs, y'all. You might know what that is. What is that? What does that mean?
A DWI?
DEI, not DWI. What is that? We got our local entrepreneur.
I think Tanasia gonna tell us.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, are you gonna say that first, and then you're gonna read the snippet? The thing from the list.
You know what though? Everybody turns around and they be like, Trump doing this, Trump doing that. They read the headline. Don't even know what he's doing. Like they read the headline. Like, okay, how many people know what a DEI really is?
No.
I don't even think people affected by the DEI know what DEI is. If we're being honest.
Straight up. So
the number one people who are affected by DEI don't know what DEI is because they didn't know.
They didn't know you needed DEI
because they don't think that DEI applies to them. And you'll understand what I'm saying later when I read who benefits from it the most. Okay. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are organizational frameworks which seek to promote the fair treatment and full.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
We all distracted.
Too much pressure.
I'm nervous.
The fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups who have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination on the basis of identity or disability.
That's crazy.
Diversity, right? All the ways in which people defect. Hold up, because that's clearly. There we go. I'm like, defect is not the real word.
You're like, defect? Wait.
Hello else, I'm right. Diversity, all the ways in which people differ. Equity. Fair treatment, access, opportunity, and advancement for all people. One's identity cannot predict the outcome. Inclusion. A variety of people have power, a voice, and decision-making authority. So essentially, that's what DEI is. And now...
I'm gonna ask a quick question before we move on.
Go ahead.
I am curious, right? Because when it comes to DEI hires and why they claim they got rid of it, out of curiosity, the statement he often, I guess, exploits when this conversation comes up is, I would like, in quotes, not exact quotes, but I would like for the best person for the best, I would like the best person for the job to be in that position. So let's say through DEIs, they instead hire someone who may not be as qualified for that position just to be inclusive. Do you think that makes sense?
I think that does happen.
So
I think I've seen that. If I'm being honest, because there's been people that are like, hey, I've worked my butt off. I was friends with the manager. The manager's done. He's like about to retire. I've been at this job for 8 years. I do pretty much all his work. Whenever he calls in sick and they don't have a replacement, you've kind of heard about that. There's like, I don't even get paid for it, but I step in and I can do his whole job for the whole day, and the company loves it. And then we'll still turn around and hire someone of a quote unquote ethnic background to be inclusive, rather than move that person up and then just hire somebody else at an appropriate level, right, to still serve that whim.
Right.
But I've seen that, and I would feel some type of way too, I would feel some type of way too. It's like, I earned this, I worked for this, I applied for it, I got a clean track record. Why not? And you just say no just because.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay. So I'll pose a question to you guys.
Oh, okay. More questions.
And you might know the answer. If you know the answer, do what you do. But
Do what you do.
Do what you do.
who do you think benefits the most from DEI?
Minorities.
Government.
You said minorities?
Yes.
Okay. What'd you say?
I
Government?
I want to change my
opposite.
answer. I want to say companies.
No, I'm saying as affected. Who benefits from DEI?
Oh, I'm gonna say
Who
minorities.
receives DEI? Not receive it, but you know what I mean.
Who's exploiting it? Their words.
Who
not
is
mine.
DEI made for?
Oh, who's it
essentially?
made for?
Right?
Minorities.
Let's go there.
I'm gonna go off the thing. I'm gonna say it was made for Jewish people during the potato famine.
Okay. Y'all want the answer?
Go ahead.
White women have benefited the most from DEI
Pause.
programs, while women remain underrepresented at every stage of corporate pipeline. A McKinsey study estimated
McKinsey study makes it even worse.
it would take 48 years for women of color to achieve gender parity, while only 22 years for white women to reach this milestone.
So okay. So now I got a question for you. Now reading that, do you feel like it makes sense to get rid of DEI?
Take it out now. Take it out
because the
now.
other question, here's the other thing, right? Because I have other questions I want to ask on camera. But that opens up a slew of other questions I have for so many people. But you know what though? I'll put a pin on it. But I'll say this: I think it's really fascinating that when you see these like laws that were put in, or like these progressive like ideas that kind of get written in the law, and it was meant for one group of people, and another group exploits it more than we do. Kind of makes you wonder, like, what was the whole point?
Next question.
That brings up a
Next
good
question. And we can
conversation.
continue to talk about it, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'll go in order. Where do you think black people fall on the list of recipients of DEI
Probably
or
on the-
being benefited from DEI?
Are you asking
Last
like in a
three.
percentage, like a percentage?
percentage.
No,
Or like
in
a
the,
number?
on the
list, in
list?
the list of people who receive, or groups of people who receive DEI
Bottom,
or are affected.
Bottom
Almost
three.
bottom.
Bottom three.
I say lower. And you know what? No, I'm gonna go a little bit higher. If there's 10 groups, I think we're like bottom 5.
Right, like the sixth
Like
area.
half.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just like lower half of the list.
I don't want to say the very last because I just don't want to believe that. Go ahead though.
We are seventh.
Out of what?
Oh, that's great. So
7.
7 out of 7. So
We're
last.
But okay, so I want to expound on that because
I believe
as I've
it.
been studying into the more nonprofit field, I was seeing and I did notice a big gap in the services that were being provided to our community, specifically us. And I'll even be nice and include the African Americans, the immigrant African American programs, because sometimes they'll double back and just contribute to black people as
You
well.
don't talk into the microphone.
Sorry. Sorry. And so, and it's alarming. Like it's night and day. Like there's programs for Scandinavians here, like in Minnesota. But if you're like a black community, it's just like, there's there's so many few of them that they all know each other, like have
Right.
their phone numbers,
They have a
because
community,
there's
that's
not
what it
that
is.
much. They have to send them to each other because they don't. Even, they run out of funding because they don't even get enough funding. But then like there's Asian American, Native American, Latino, Hispanic programs. Like they got armies of people. It seems like. So it's kind of interesting. I feel like that makes sense from what I've been seeing. That's been the undertone of what I've been researching lately.
Last on the list?
I had more hope. I assumed like maybe
I had hope. I didn't want to believe it. I can believe it that you said it,
I
but
believe it.
I just don't want to believe it.
I don't want to believe it.
What's crazy
I'm
about
trying
this?
to find the actual list because I knew the answer before
What's
today.
the source though?
Well, that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to find the actual list.
What's wild about that though? I think when you really talk about or go more in depth about like the black community and the resources that are given to us, I find it not that hard to believe that we're not receiving as much. At the same time, I would rather focus more on like, well, what can we do as a group for our group? Like
That's
yeah, there's a lot of
the other part. That's the other part of the
because there's a lot of
conversation, right?
resources that are given to other minority groups, but let's not forget that they equally help each other out with their like
They're
the dollar
trying to
stays
get-
in their community.
They're
you know?
stretching that to make everybody
Right.
like, can I feed 10 families with this? Cool. Let's try to push for 20 and then keeping that type of energy rolling. Because I was going to say this to expound on that too. I do notice though, as a community, I've started to notice with the nonprofits is the people willing to step up and support the protection of the community plays a factor as well, right?
They got a whole support groups for
obviously, because we
communities.
talked about a flawed government, right? Obviously, the government's like, we're just giving them out blindsided. Cool. But when you get that one person that catches 10 million, in our group, it is unfortunate, but the person who's going to catch that 10 million is going to try to catch as much of it for themselves as possible, and then will give the rest to their friends.
Right.
Like, that's the type of community we unfortunately kind of have as a dynamic. When the other community is like, there's pride in being a Latin American. There's pride in being Native American. There's pride in being an Asian American. We have lost this lack of pride, and there's like this negative version of ego. And we all struggling. We all need assistance, but for some reason, we all are like, we be sizing each other up in that issue, and I feel like that plays a part in the nonprofit. Because the people who are giving nonprofits now, they're very few, but they're mentally stable men, mostly women, and they're all looking out for Black people. But even then, it's like they're mostly looking out for Black women. And then there's some work that's being done for Black men, which is even smaller than the women's group, and they're like the last on the list. Like, we need more of a community so we can make this stuff stretch further.
I blame the parents for not instilling more of that into their children, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
You still looking it up, the source?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
It's just like
DEI service.
I mean,
man.
again, it's just like when you really talk about this and you really go into depth, like it is truly interesting knowing that like other groups have, like they have their internal resources and they're also getting money from outside sources coming in, and then there's us, and again, I would rather focus on what we can do now. Like, what can we? I'm not too fixated on the idea of getting money from someone else because I can't expect that.
Right.
I don't expect us to receive that. No matter, I can care less about the reasons about it because until we have the strength or the resources to say, okay, why are we not getting this now? You can't focus on that.
You can't. Which is the reason why
you don't have the power.
I think Greenwood, because it's like, there's two Black-owned banks that have come out recently. Greenwood was one with Killer Mike and so-and-so and a lot of celebrities finance. And then there was another one that came out that was a Black-owned bank as well.
Ooh. Sorry.
You finally got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the whole premise
Sorry,
was, like
guys.
you said, it's like, okay, we know our situation. Our situation is like, they're not going to give to us first. And we are also not always helping ourselves get it first. Like, there is a finishing the race last, and then there's not showing up to the race. Those are two different places to be, right? Which is fair, right? It's like, once you get it, what are we doing with it to make it worth it?
Yep.
Right? And so that's the reason why they're like, okay, these banks be buying stadiums and rebuilding whole neighborhoods and stuff like that for profit reasons, and you can legally do that. And that's what they've been doing for years. That's where we got inspired by the Jewish, where they're like, they own so much land, and they do, and it's profitable. And it's like, okay, what can we do? And then it's like, we finally opened up a bank. But then it's like, okay, to our regular peers, they may not know the importance of that. Yep. They're like, we open up this bank, we build a Black city around this bank with Black businesses flourishing, and then that allows us to create and strive to create a community, and if we can keep bleeding those bank funds into our own thing, use the bank interest building system, which is a more reliable system and a profitable system, which is why it's good to work for a bank. But everybody doesn't see that. Some of these people, and unfortunately, I love my people, but sometimes we're part of our own mess. We over here focused on that unhealthy relationship, not raising our kids right, like you said. And again, now we're at a point where kids are raising kids, and they have messed up brains and giving kids. I went to a place called Mini Pack. This was in Minneapolis on Thursday when I went to my friend's house to play some card games. And I went to go get catfish and chicken. And there were these 12, like easily 12-year-olds. Like they were 12, they were maybe 13, if at all. And they was raunchy. But to be that raunchy as a kid, they was raunchy, cussing up a storm, talking about, yeah, we about to meet and beat so-and-so right after school. And this is 12-year-olds.
That's the parents. But you know what, though?
12-year-olds.
You almost there?
And they're out here at 8 p.m.,
Right there.
8 o'clock at night. It's pitch dark outside. You got all questionable kinds of people coming around this neighborhood, and your kids just walking the street.
That's because they don't care.
And then also,
ew.
there's that negative
But
dynamic
ew.
where these young girls are wilding and then trying to go and get with older dudes too.
Literally, like 5 years after that one movie came out, the kids movie.
Yeah.
What was it called? Tootsies or something?
No. Wait, what? No, I don't think it was called Tootsies. I think it was.
You remember the name of that movie? It was about the kids twerking and dancing, and it was about the social media.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I just don't remember the
I
movie.
can't remember that.
I'm trying to look it
Anyway,
up.
it's not surprising. None of this is surprising to me. And back to the whole conversation at hand. I'm not surprised about any of this at this point anymore. I can accept this fact, and I think what's most important about it, especially when we talk about cuties, there it is. I know I was close. I said tootsies or something. I was close. I think it's really important that, again, we fixate on the idea of like, okay, let's just work on this and not focus on getting the sources from
Anywhere
anywhere else, because you're not.
And
you can't expect
I think the bigger problem right now is a consequence of mindset, because because we've been deprived by the American business culture system for so long, and everybody thinks being broke is the problem. It's not the money.
It's not about
It's not the money. You can give these people $10,000, and that $10,000 will be gone tomorrow with no actual meaningful financial ground that it has been put into. No savings account established. Kids still walking around bummy. The parents still walking around dusty, busty, and bummy, and nothing has been changed.
It's the equivalent.
All while giving that exact same money to the pedophile baby daddy that's locked up in jail.
That's crazy.
All right, real quick before I forget my delivery on this.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
As of the U.S. Department of Labor,
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Very,
okay.
all right, reliable.
We got federal sources here.
Yep.
white women,
Number 1.
Hispanic and Latino,
Yep. Number 2.
Asian American,
Yep.
Native American,
Yep.
people with disability, those with disability,
I think they would be
Dang.
higher, but okay.
I thought they would be higher.
those who are veterans,
I would expect them to be second.
LGBTQ plus.
Why are they not last?
Why are they on the list? Hold on.
Last, black people.
Wait a minute.
I could expect.
name
Wait a minute.
Three people who
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
LGBTQ is considered a minority?
Stop. I could expect LGBTQ to be on this list because that's what they tote, and because of the discrimination that any one of them may have faced at some point in the distant past, the very 30 plus years ago.
I couldn't expect them to be ahead of us though.
I can't. I would not. Black people on this list should be maybe at the minimum fourth.
At the minimum,
at
it should
the
have been
minimum.
From a
fourth. It should have
conversation
been
that you
fourth.
and I had the other day, the problem is that Native American is fourth. That's the problem that I'm having with this.
I could. You know what? I think I can expect white people to be first on that.
Yeah,
That's a given.
White people, okay,
but
morally and
Native
ethically, white people
Americans,
shouldn't be on the list.
the only people who should be here,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that's what I said the other day.
Hear me out.
Remember,
Number
the whole
one.
conversation regarding America is they only care about immigrants moving in while white people are here. They don't care about them moving in to somebody else's backyard.
Yeah, you know what though? From my expectation from this list, I would have expected white people to be first, blacks to be white people, Native Americans.
I expected somebody to be higher to us, like maybe Hispanic or Asian in the second slot. Or Native
disability.
Americans.
I think disability would be third on that list, then black people,
Then
then veterans. If not, somewhere between the
Swap.
Yeah, either between the Native Americans and the veterans, I would expect them to be kind of there, but us would be fourth.
An acceptable list.
an acceptable list would be
Go ahead,
different.
give us your acceptable list in order.
My realistic. This is my
Let's
realistic
say it like
list.
this: when it
What I
comes to
expected.
DEI hire,
Yeah.
say that
There you
first.
go.
Yeah, when it comes to DEI, DEI hires, my expected list, because I understand how this country ran, I did expect white people first. I expected like somebody to be in second. It would have been like more so Hispanic or Native American, and it would have been us at 3 or 4. Then it would have followed the list down where it would have been like, okay, Asian, disability, LGBTQ, and veteran. The only reason why I say that is because I didn't realize how bad they treated veterans, even with putting policies. They've put policies in place for veterans and still don't give them to veterans. So I wouldn't have been surprised if veterans were the last on the list because they've just had a bad track record. They're trying to make it better, they say, all the time. And then they're like, well, I've been out of service for 30 years. When are we going to get it better? So, like, that's what I would have expected the list. Now, my more acceptable list would have been, obviously, white people shouldn't be on the list. That's a whole nother conversation. Then it would be, because of certain laws in place, I expected it to be the government influences of veterans and disabilities. Like, disabilities first, veterans second. Then we would have started with the groups. It should be Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, like the waves of who came in order, and then LGBTQ at the end would make sense because they're a new group. How the heck do you benefit? You're already benefiting more than the people who've been on the list.
They've been around in the 60s and the 50s. They've been around. I mean, what do you think they were doing on the sailor ships?
Not as like fully identified as like a group. Like these are like groups that are supposed to be like full-on identities, right? Like,
if you
white
don't
people,
shift the
black
microphone people. When you talk,
I am talking.
I hear him.
I'm talking, but it's just crazy to me. It's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me.
What were you expecting?
Crazy.
I'm curious.
Expecting versus like what should be or what accept. Like I
Either
think that
he did both. I already did mine. So
okay. Expected, right? What I thought, white people. Hispanic. I thought the Hispanic and Latino and maybe Asian would be on the same wavelength. I didn't think that they would be like, and then actually, you know what? This list doesn't surprise me. And now that I think about it, this list doesn't surprise me. It doesn't. However, can agree with you in a certain aspect, right? Native Americans should be first.
By the actual full morals.
Like,
that
can
makes
y'all
sense.
actually hire them? Can y'all not? Can y'all, like...
Y'all gave them
what are we
casinos
doing?
and drugs and said, cool, have a spot. Like...
No, you gave them a portion of the country and said, cool.
Don't even
Enjoy
consider
your
that.
life.
They don't even want to consider that. They're trying to get rid of the...
You gave them a portion of a state and said...
They even trying to get rid of that.
Let alone a portion of a country, let alone a state. You gave them a portion of a state, a portion of a city in a state, and said, cool.
What they gave them was their concentration camp lands that they had them on in the first place. And then some states are willing to give them a little bit more or ship them off of that. But...
How you willing to give me anything when I'm from here? I'm from the dirt. That's not saying like, I'm not trying to say they're dirty and I'm not saying that at all. If I was which technically we all are from Africa, right? But that's like selling to Africa the African dirt. That's like saying this is your land, but I'm gonna give you this part of the land. Like, I'm from here. What are you talking about? When you came here, you saw everybody that looked like me. What are you talking about?
So I got another question. Okay, so when it comes to DEI hires and them getting rid of it, I mean, do you feel like now you might have a better shot?
No.
What about you?
I feel like DEI, I feel like it was one of those things that if used appropriately, it would have, literally, we wouldn't be mad at the U.S. if used appropriately for those groups that needed support and help. But it was misused. So it's not going to help us because that's how, outside of the DEI, it was going to operate anyway. That was how it was going to operate anyway. And they were going to interchange the groups like it was fun. Like, today we're going to hire a Native American. Today we're going to hire a Hispanic.
Gotcha.
Today we're going to hire a black person. They were always going to hire the working class white woman.
I got another question. Think about this one for a split second, though. When it comes to DEI in general, the whole idea of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can we get another synopsis on what it means one more time?
Okay.
Define
Like the actual
DEI.
meaning,
Yep.
yeah, the meaning of it.
Just one more time for me before I ask this question.
Diversity, equity, so DEI are
Diversity.
organizational You want me to
You can go.
okay.
I'm
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our organizational frameworks, which seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation. Wow, I can't read. Participation of all people, particularly groups who have historically been underrepresented.
Yep.
Is it clicking?
Underrepresented. Yeah.
Represented?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you stop there, it's good enough.
It's the definition in the room with us, right? Like that's
So that being said,
all
right?
y'all. I can read. Okay, YouTube. I
Check
can
the
read.
position. Check the location
It's
on that
hard.
list.
So with that being said, I mean, would you not expect that list to make more sense right now?
After reading that?
After reading what the definition of what DEI stands for and why it was made, do you not expect that list to be like that now?
No, I expect that list to be like that because I expect that list to represent like every other service that the government has given to minorities and people who are not included. It completely represents how they've always done it in the past. And again, it's another conversation of we are at the bottom of the list. We are not Target. They do not care. They will make a program. We will be at the bottom of the list.
Should we not be proud we're on the list?
No. Let me tell you. Let me get you right real quick. Let me get you right real quick. Let me get you right real quick.
If there was another group that could be on that list, you don't think we would have been bumped off?
Oh yeah.
No. The thing is, every other group that could have been
yeah.
on that list has their own plan. They've been taking care of themselves.
Every other group that has been on that list, though, isn't from here, wasn't brought here, and has created their own has created their own community, so that they don't have to be on that list.
They don't have to be on that list.
Crazy.
They don't have to be on it. And remember,
And
Is that what I said?
we know who we're talking about, Minnesota. We know who we're talking about.
yeah.
Have created their own.
So when you look at that list, like it says for inclusion and those who were mistreated and misrepresented
Historically,
We should have been higher.
we should have been number one.
hey, they all eat.
Number
They
two.
all fit the bill.
Number two.
Everybody on that list fits that bill. Everybody on that
I'm
list,
going to say this.
by definition, fits that bill. Come on.
By
Always.
definition, except for us, nobody on that list has been enslaved in this country.
I will always
Native
yield
Americans
to
had
Native
some.
American. I will always yield to Native American. We are on their land. I will always yield to Native Americans.
So
I will.
So-
I mean that.
So back to my question, real quick, before you eat. I'm asking the same thing. Given the
it
definition
makes
of
sense.
DEI,
That list makes complete and perfect sense.
does that list to you make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
Now, it's not. I don't think that people
I'm
are
not saying
having
I
an
agree
issue
with
with.
it. I just believe it.
I don't think people are having issues so much with the list itself. I think the placement of the list and I think the priority and the importance of the list is what people are having issue with.
The blatant.
I got another question too.
That's what people are.
I got one more question.
Wait, I just want to go off of this, by the way. And apparently, I think the list is working according to their plans because according to the financial load in the United States, the earnings of any white household owner is averaging $250,000 a year.
But you know what though?
So clearly, it's working for them.
I got another question. I got two last questions, but this is my last question on this topic. So I think I'm gonna start off with a statement and then a question.
Okay.
I believe that when people hear DEI,
I'm sorry. Because when I hear it, it's like affirmative action. Affirmative action. That's you, girl. That's what I hear.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think when people hear it, or at least the conversation being talked about right now, I think because of our current president, I think because of his campaign, I think because of like the issues we're facing as a country right now, I think people hear DEI and they 100% pivot towards the idea that it's like, oh, we're only putting minorities in positions that they don't deserve. And they typically fixate on people that look like you and me.
Right.
And I think that plays a question
That's
into
a problem.
this, right?
That's not.
Do you think there is an issue when it comes to like when you look it up, what do you see?
What's so different from what I read in definition of DEI and the definition of this?
Read it off. Read it off. People can't see that.
What does it say?
Affirmative action is a set of policies and practices that aim to address discrimination and promote equal opportunities for underrepresented groups. What's so different from the definition I read of DEI in that definition?
Nothing. It's a subcat. Literally, DEI is a subcategory of that.
Yeah, but they did away with affirmative action.
Yep.
No,
Supposedly.
they didn't. No,
Allegedly.
They did what America does. They renamed it, rebranded, and was like, "This is profitable. We're going to keep it." That's exactly what they did. If they would have got rid of TikTok, they would try to find something else to replace it. Like, it's just how they are. It's just how they are.
I mean, that's why YouTube Shorts went up for a minute to two.
In June 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the use of race in college admissions. So I think that it was more or less for that purpose.
You know what, though?
But
I almost want to say I agree with that action, and I almost want to disagree with that action. I think there's a recourse behind everything. Right? I would have been 100% okay with that if we focused more on actually having a better education system and also gave people who are in, I guess, certain communities an opportunity to actually be able to focus more on educating their children. I also blame the parents more than I ever blame in education, the system themselves, because if the parents aren't actively making sure their children are doing their homework and studying, you can't expect them to ever pass anything in school.
Right.
Now you could also say, well, some of the teachers ain't teaching and this and that. Well, you also got a system of students who don't care. And then now you got teachers who are like, well, if they don't care, why would I care? I'm just going to collect my check.
And to meet parents where they're at, because these parents that do care about, very much care about their students' education, there have now popped up countless private and charter and tuition-based programs that take. You thought your public school had a zero tolerance of physical abuse? No, they don't. That's why that kid who keeps fighting is allowed to come back to that school. These schools will the moment you will get questioned one time. You get questioned one time, and if it's not a solvable cause, you'll be booted.
Gone.
And if it is a solvable cause, you'll be suspended, and it'll be your last warning. They catch you again, it doesn't matter. You don't get to talk next time.
All that money your parents spent for you to go there, and you just pissed it away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the consequence because they're taking it seriously. And those are the kids that are getting prepped for how serious college needs to be and stuff like that, because they're actually getting in tune with the learning environment. Because your atmosphere is a part of what you become. It's not just what your parents say. It's like if your parents say one thing, but then you bring them around a bunch of stealers and thieves, they will still may pick up stealing and thieving.
They're hanging around
because they're stealing thieves. You know, like that's just how it happens.
Last thing, and then we'll go back to what it is because I want my answer to my question. On a very serious note, when it comes to this, though, I mean,
sounds like affirmative action.
What happens when? Thank you
very much.
Sorry. What happens when you got parents that? I mean, this is what happens when parents don't care about a lot of things, right? When your parents don't invest in your child like that and focus on making sure that things are done. I mean, you may not understand what the homework is, but as long as you make sure that they get it done, and you're like, okay, you got to trust that when you ask your child, like, do you understand this or not? And they say no, and you can't afford to get a private tutor. Okay, well, what resources are available in my community? Does the public library have a tutor? Yes, they do. You can do that. You can go back to the school and say, hey, my child, it doesn't seem like they're getting it. They told me they do, but their grades aren't reflecting that. What's going on? That's a parent that's active in their child's education.
And the teacher should have a response other than I'm overwhelmed because we have too many kids.
You do realize that the school system, at least the public school system, is afraid of active parents, though. 100%. You do realize that, right?
Yes.
Because then that means that, I can't just slouch around. I can't just treat your kid like any other kid. I can't just do whatever I want to do.
They said
I have to actually teach your kid.
Yeah, they said the school system is one of the top 10 most corrupt government environments. Like
100%.
Because it's one of those jobs where doing your job is way harder than not. So it's just easier to just be like, you've met these teachers. They're just nice. They give the kids candy. They give them homework. They grade them, fail them, go back home. When I found out these teachers be going to hookah lounges and bars on the weekday and they have drinking problems, I'm like, oh.
I would too if I had to watch your baby kids.
But here's the thing, right? The problem comes from the top.
100%.
The problem comes from somewhere. It's not, and I'm not talking about I'm not even talking about there. It starts at the superintendent board. It starts
yeah,
at the BOA.
Yeah, what your kids getting taught is important.
This is why I also
BOE,
say,
sorry,
listen,
BOE guys, BOE, not BOA.
this is why I also say, like, I would love to see, and I only say this with a grain of salt, but I would love to see what Trump does for the education system, because that was something he also attacked on his campaign trail. So what more is he going to do? What are you going to force? Because you can't say, oh, we have some of the smartest people on the planet. We have a very strong education base. Okay, well, I grew up in public education, so I want to know what you're talking about.
Right.
I want to see where you're going to find them. And
there are countries that are ahead of us.
Yeah,
10 times.
The atomic
ahead.
bomb was also the head engineer was German. So I just want to know, where are these people coming from?
They're
Right.
not. Yeah, no. There are countries that are See, public school education.
A couple of centuries ahead of us.
ahead of us.
They are centuries ahead of us in education.
Literally.
So
Literally.
Yeah.
And their approach to education is very important as well.
Yeah.
When Asian culture has a child that's hyperactive in nature, there was a myth that they just beat them into submission, right? They put them in a career field that mirrors their characteristic. Imagine if you put your kid in a school that just basically did that. For the beginning years, when they get junior high, you can have them on a regular system. But they're like, okay, you like to jump around, we're gonna put things into your hands and teach you that way. And then adapt to that. And then we kind of do that, but then we always bring it back because it's more affordable and easier to have them all big old group. But then now you got public school system, you got all these kids, mismanagement of funds, like everything's like a domino effect into each other. It all feeds into each other.
I mean,
like
I
you
think
said,
that
it starts at the top.
Part of the problem is that we never addressed it. What really goes on in those basements?
No, man, don't get me.
No, seriously.
That's a whole
part
other
of the
conversation.
problem is that we never really addressed what goes on in those basements. What goes on, and these kids from year after year after year after year, and then you get to 8th grade, and then what?
What do you do?
Then you get to high school.
Yeah.
Then what?
Now, all that to be said, because we got off the. All that to be said, it really does start with the education.
Yeah.
It really does. And
because because I've talked to people don't know they can do something. You don't know what you don't know till you know you don't know.
Yeah, you got to be aware of what you don't know.
So we gotta bring information and be like, look, I'm very, very confident in rebuilding our community. I think it's possible. I do feel like our community will fracture. Like when black people get really, really serious about like, okay, we're doing us for us. Like the other cultures don't apologize for looking after each other. Once we get up, when you get a like-minded group of people who do that with us, the way we are always conflicting with each other, there's going to be those of us who have already given up, sold out, exhausted, tired. They're like, I'm comfortable being ghetto hood ratchet.
Yep.
I'm comfortable being egomaniac.
And fight
I'm comfortable
against
scamming
it. Yep.
some of those who are like, I'm okay with scamming my people in order so I can go and live with the
Other
opposition. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to shed those people off and then provide that knowledge to those who stick with us. So I think at the cost of our community doing better, we're going to lose a decent amount of our community to the foolishness.
They already do.
Because they're already in it.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, that's why they say there's two truths that suck the most. It's like you get money from the people in your neighborhood, and then you move out the neighborhood, and you won't go back to help that neighborhood.
Right.
Well, and then the person that did it says, "Why would I stay there?"
Like they're out to get me.
Everybody there is always knocking on my door, asking for something, or I can't raise my kids there. It's too dangerous. Like I grew up there,
like I
survived, but I'm gonna want what's best for my child. It's not in that neighborhood.
It's essentially the person who makes it, gets out of the neighborhood, and they're like, I know what that neighborhood's like.
Yeah,
and then they'll say that neighborhood would never change. I can invest, I can do everything I want, but it won't change.
Yeah.
Okay, well. Make it. You can try it, but they won't. What was the point?
We all know at least one person who is stubborn.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
No.
But here's the thing. I asked somebody else, and then
go ahead.
I got my last question. I asked somebody else, another Uber driver. I was like, hey, let me ask you something. Actually, what neighbor, like I don't need to know the exact address, but like what city / neighborhood you live in, and he was like, oh, I live on the east side. Like near Payne Avenue. And I was like, okay, right?
Like, we know
and he
that
was
area.
like, there was literally, he was like, there was a helicopter this morning running around looking for somebody because there was a shootout. And I'm like, dang, how often does that happen? He was like, you'll be surprised. It's not uncommon. It's not common, but it happens. Like,
right.
it
definitely happened more than once.
Right. And he's like, but if you're not with the riffraff, you don't really have a lot to worry about, but this is the neighborhood. And I'm like, okay. And I said, well, what do you think could change if the community banded together? And he goes, nothing's going to change. And I'm like, you don't think if everybody on that block knew the kids across the street, knew the parents of those kids, all that other stuff,
defines.
like if everybody banded together and was like, hey, I recognize the one that just ran. That's the Johnson's son.
Yep.
Or that's Becky's daughter or whatever.
Yep.
Like, yo, you really don't think they're not going either they're gonna go to the parents and gonna say, hey, I just watched your son do something stupid.
Right.
Or they might just go straight to the police department.
Go ahead.
That essentially, it sounds like what you're saying is just going back to the neighborhood actually being the neighborhood.
Yep.
Yeah.
Back in the day where your neighbor used to be able to beat your kids. Your neighbor used to be able to, you know? I think that because that is the neighborhood taking accountability for itself.
Right. And remember, we did that. Before the drugs and the BS,
That's
we
what
were
I'm saying.
doing that.
The neighborhood was the neighborhood.
We, on our own, instinctively, after breaking us down to skeletons of human beings, you know, after all of that stuff, after the Renaissance, after segregation, after still being called the N-word, after we're supposed to be free, not slave people, because segregation came right after it. You know, we still were like, look, you don't want us here? Fine. And we went places and created neighborhoods ourselves. Like we were building houses, we were learning skills, we were trades, we knew them. You know what I'm saying?
But
we
what happened
learned
to those neighborhoods?
Exactly.
Now that being said,
but now I know that we have the gall to we won't let that happen.
Listen, that's not going to happen again.
We know, be like, oh, you coming over here with fire? All right.
This is why I said, like,
and this would be the uncle right on the edge of the community, right by the little grocery store. He's like, you rode down the street. Every one of us can see your car before you can see us.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is why I said what I said. Like, this
Now,
isn't the
we would
50s or
protect ourselves
60s
for
anymore.
sure.
Like,
Right.
you build up another Tulsa. What do you think is going to happen if somebody came rolling around trying to do something?
Yep,
Right.
come meet us.
Everybody
And,
reporting
like,
that.
this is why I'm like, only thing that I expect is something to happen from for our community in specific. There is no excuse anymore. If you're gonna keep sitting there saying all that rah stuff about what happened in the past, I'm not denouncing that. I'm just saying, how about you just start it right now? How about we do something about it? I'm guilty of it too. Don't get me wrong. I haven't started
We do have
it, but
more at our disposal now.
Right.
And
But you know what though? I think that even when you go and say that, right? Like, okay, let's talk about the most recent issue. Let's talk about the most recent of it, right? Going back to the topic of DEI, right? These companies who said that they're rolling back their DEI, Target, Walmart, right?
yeah.
What did we say before we started this episode?
Don't you dare shop at them no more.
don't you shop at them.
Because
You
the
feel
thing
some
is,
sort of way, don't go there.
there's enough of us. There's enough of us, and this is why
I'm
I
not
love
gonna lie,
TikTok.
I'm guilty. I just got a PS5 yesterday, but I'll start tomorrow.
I love TikTok. I love TikTok because there's enough of us even on there who are creating stuff.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's
that
a
part.
whole this woman.
I do have a conspiracy theory about that, which is why I think they also wanted to shut it down. But continue.
Oh, there's so many conspiracy theories about TikTok, but there's a woman on there who created, and I'm gonna find it because I do really want Chocolate Espresso to be attached to that, right? And it doesn't have to be.
Ooh,
support
I hear a
us or
business
go-
adventure.
Not even just that. Like, I genuinely just want us to be able to support that and push that because she created the Black Amazon.
There's a Black Amazon.
She essentially created the Black Amazon.
Oh,
And there's-
it's over.
if you need to-
she can't
if
sell
you
it.
need
She
to
better not
know-
sell it. I'm gonna cry.
No, well, if you need to know where to go in your community or where to go in your state that has like Black supermarkets or a Black owned store or products.
And that's
It's
what we
essentially
need.
It's on
the
there.
yellow book.
Yeah, it's the
Yep.
Black Yellow Book, and we did Black Twitter. We make
But no,
communities.
you can buy stuff from there. It's Amazon.
Yeah.
But we make communities, and I think that's what we need again, right? We need us knowing what we're doing, and that would be the answer.
I got my last question because this is a long
Go ahead.
episode. There are government secrets we are better off not knowing. You agree with that?
So I'm nosy, so I say no.
No.
There is no secrets that government has that you don't want to be. That you
If it's that bad, all the more reason I need to know it.
that's crazy.
If it's that bad, like, hey, we can't tell everybody. Well, you got to tell me, because I need to know.
I want to know the
There's-
darkest secrets.
It's crazy if you say that because there's so many things that y'all don't really want to know the answer to. However,
You said you can clone me. I need to know that. I need to know that, babe. Just know that there's a chance that you can see me, but not see me.
hold on, I got
That's
you.
crazy.
You said MLK went out how?
He and Q.
You said Rosa Parks did what? She was the
really
the blank one who did what?
I said what I said. That's crazy.
You said JFK. What happened to JFK?
Jay got Jade.
Jay got Jade. All right, y'all. Diddy did what?
Not Diddy. Oh boy. Obviously, I was saying Diddy.
Diddy. Diddy did what?
It's over.
I was like, Diddy. I was with you the whole time.
You know what I want to see though?
It's over.
You know what I want to see? I want to see a shirt with Diddy, Epstein.
Epstein.
I want to see Diddy, Epstein, and R. Kelly.
I would put on the shirt. I peed the
And
richest dangers. I would name them the richest dangers, and I put on my shirt.
Oh, no.
Richest dangers.
Anyway,
It was
We
a good
out.
episode.
We out.
We out. It's been a long episode.
Y'all take care.